What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over Fatal Attractions. And technically, we're at the end of our coverage of the actual event because we already covered the first 5 chapters of Fatal Attractions and all the storyline that took place between those chapters. And so now it's time for us to cover the final chapter, which is Excalibur issue number 71. Now, with this chapter alone, it's really being used as a way to kind of push Colossus away officially from the X-Men along with Wolverine, but also kind of setting up the new idea of Excalibur because now Excalibur is going to be an X-Men book. And what I mean by that statement, when it came to Chris Claremont in the early days of Excalibur, he was trying his best to make sure that Excalibur stayed away from the other X books. So in the beginning, you did not have Excalibur crossing over with the X-Men or X-Factor or New Mutants or X-Force, none of that. Excalibur stayed away from the other X-Teams. Now, occasionally, you would have small crossovers, small team-ups, but like only for an issue or two, and that would be it. But in the 90s, when it came to Marvel, when it came to X-Men getting really popular, they want all their different X books begin to work together. So X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, X-Force, X-Factor, Excalibur, Wolverine, Cable, and future books coming down the road in the 90s like Generation X. And so this is the point where we could say that Excalibur is now technically an actual X book and will be used alongside the other X books in the 1990s. Now, for the final chapter of Fatal Attractions, being Excalibur issue 71, I do want to say that it's really more about Colossus. And let me explain. You see, when it came to Colossus in the earlier parts of really the 1990s going into Fatal Attractions, the man had went through a lot. Let me explain. So his brother died by suicide. His parents were killed off by the Russian government. And then his sister died by the legacy virus. All of that happened in a very short period of time for Colossus in the 1990s. So for him, he has gone through a lot. And so he also got injured in an annual storyline we did not cover. And so with his head injury, you have the X-Men believe that he is not thinking straight. But either way, when it came to Colossus, he felt like Charles Xavier's goals are not going to be able to be achieved, meaning that he does not believe that sooner or later the X-Men should be able to help the mutants and the humans live together in harmony. For him, he's all like, listen, your ways are not working. I'm going to go ahead and join Magneto's side when it comes to the whole idea of helping out the mutant race. And so now this chapter alone is going to be more of trying to get Colossus back on the side of good again. And so as we dive into the opening pages for today's storyline, we do pick up with Nightcrawler fighting against an acolyte. Now remember, the acolytes are different people who are mutants who believe in what Magneto is trying to achieve. Now, some of them were captured in the earlier parts of Fatal Attractions and brought over to Muir Island. Now, here's the thing. When it came to Magneto in the 4th chapter of Fatal Attractions, he had released an EMP across the entire world. And so when he did that, he had shut down almost all technology across the world, including the prison that Moira McTaggart had for different members of the acolytes that were captured. And so you have Excalibur going out of their way to capture the mutants who are on the run. Now, something else I should mention is that by this point in our coverage over Excalibur, you only have 3 members left. Nightcrawler, Rachel Summers the Phoenix, and also Kitty Pryde. The rest of the team have left in different kinds of ways. So right now, it's just these 3 members of Excalibur. But either way, for Nightcrawler, he hates the idea of fighting against an acolyte. And the reason why, because this one right here is trying to say that what they are doing, going around killing off different humans, is not really a problem at all. And also, you had this guy trying to get on Nightcrawler's nerves by saying, look, even your friend Colossus realized that we are right, that maybe Magneto ways are better for the mutant race, and humans should be nowhere near mutants at all. Now, you do have Nightcrawler get so angry that he wants to kill off this acolyte, and we do learn that for this acolyte, he has the ability to play with your mind like that, to push you in that emotion where you want to kill somebody. But luckily for Nightcrawler, he was stopped at the very last second by, well, Rachel Summers and Kitty Pryde. Now, can I just say that almost any time when it comes to Excalibur doing any kind of crossover is usually with the X-Men, but most of the time I feel like it's just Cyclops, Jean Grey, and also Charles Xavier. Now, we already know why, because Rachel Summers is the daughter of Cyclops and Jean Grey from an alternate timeline. Really, today's video is going to be really important for Rachel as well, and Jean Grey and Cyclops as well. But with that being said, you do have those three characters arrive to Muir Island. And the reason why, because they need the help of Excalibur. But really, they need the help of Kitty Pryde. Now, the reason why Charles Xavier and the X-Men need the help of Kitty Pryde is because Kitty Pryde and Colossus used to be madly in love with one another. And so it's Charles saying, if I can use Kitty Pryde to call out to Colossus to bring him back down to Earth, then we can use that as a way to capture him. Because for Charles Xavier and Jean Grey, they believe the only reason why Colossus had joined Magneto's side is because of his head injury. And so it's Charles saying, if we are able to repair that head injury, then Colossus should be able to think straight. And once he does, he'll realize that Magneto ways is the wrong way for the mutant race. And so you did have Charles say, Kitty, we need you to call out to Colossus. And she says no and walks away. Now, for me, it's really Charles Xavier now realizing that all the people that he taught over the years are no longer just children. They're now adults, young adults, some in their late 20s, early 20s, some in their late teens. But either way, they're still adults. And so for Charles Xavier, he has to realize that now he has to talk to them as adults, not as children. And so when he does get mad at Kitty Pryde for walking away, she says, no, you're going to talk to me like I am an adult, because you have to understand I have emotions. I have feelings. The whole idea of being used as a pawn to bring Colossus down here is a problem. But at the same time, he understands that it's probably the best way to help out Colossus. And so you have Kitty Pryde go ahead and call out to Colossus. Now, when she does, it's her saying like, hey, I want to join your side, Magneto's side. I realize it's the best thing for the mutant race. Now, for Colossus, he's kind of worried here because he does not know if this could be a trap. But at the same time, he feels like it's not a trap because his love for Kitty Pryde is still so strong. He feels like their love should be enough to give her a reason to join his side, Magneto's side. Now, with Magneto being out of the picture, thanks to Charles Xavier, Exodus is now the one in charge of all the acolytes. And so he tells Colossus, you get 1 hour. Go down there and try to recruit her. But if you're not back in 1 hour, we're coming down there for you. And so Colossus leaves. Now we jump back over to Excalibur and the X-Men, and we do see that Kitty Pryde is still worried. And the reason why, because for Kitty Pryde, she's kind of wondering, even if they're able to capture him and fix his mind, could Colossus rejoin the X-Men? She still believes Colossus might still leave and rejoin the Acolytes and Magneto's side. But now there is another character getting involved in this event, this storyline, and that would be Cable. Now, when it comes to Cable, the last time we saw him in the main storyline for Fatal Attractions, the man got completely wrecked by Magneto because Cable found out his old base, the Grey Malkin, was officially taken away from him by Magneto. And he tried his best to make sure Magneto could no longer use the Grey Malkin. Now, Avalon is actually the different parts of the Grey Malkin along with other parts of things that Magneto had found. Either way, for Cable, he's very upset about the fact that he lost the Grey Malkin to Magneto and the Acolyte. So he gets word that Colossus is going to meet up with Excalibur and the X-Men. He's all like, listen, In my mind, Colossus is a traitor. He's no longer on the side of good, which means that he got to be put down for his mistakes, for his consequence, for joining Magneto's side. Now, I want to jump over to Nightcrawler and Cyclops. And the reason why, because you have Nightcrawler feeling a type of way. And the reason why, because he is the leader of Excalibur, but he feels like he is a failure as a leader of Excalibur. And the reason why, because like I said earlier, most of the team is gone now. It's just him, Kitty Pryde, and Rachel Summers. And that's really it. And so he feels like that it's his fault that he lost the different members of his team. But you have Scott saying, no, that's just life as a team leader. There's going to be times where you're not going to be able to protect every single member of your team. The thing is, you just have to continue on for the ones you still have at the moment. It's him saying like, look, dude, you may have lost most of Excalibur, but you still have a team here. Right now, you have Rachel and Kitty Pryde. That's your team. Lead them. And then maybe over time, the rest might come back or new ones might be able to join in. Now, I want to jump over to Rachel Summers and also Jean Grey because, okay, when it came to these two characters in the late 80s and 90s, unfortunately, they did not have a strong relationship. And the reason why, because, well, Jean Grey. But for Jean Grey, she hated the idea of hearing that Rachel Summers was her daughter from an alternate timeline, right? And so for Jean Grey, she felt like she no longer had a choice of who she's going to marry because here is Rachel Summers saying, hey, listen, I'm your daughter, and you married Scott Summers. And for Jean Grey, she wanted to choose. She did not want to have it be destined for her to be with Scott Summers. Because of her, it kind of seemed like she might go over to Wolverine or possibly somebody else. But it seemed like she no longer had a choice. And so she gave Rachel the cold shoulder for a long time. But as Jean Grey kind of realizing that maybe she was in the wrong because now she realized that she wants to marry Scott Summers. She wants to be with him. And this leads into the wedding of Scott Summers and Jean Grey. And we'll cover that in a later video. But for right now, it kind of shows that, hey, she's deciding that she wants to actually marry Scott Summers. And now she can be a mom to Rachel Summers. But now we can officially go ahead and get ready for the big scene where you have the X-Men and Excalibur going to work together to possibly capture Colossus. Because when we jump over to Kitty Pryde, she's in position waiting for him to just pop up so that she'll be able to, well, help with the idea of capturing him. And so you do have Colossus appear. Now for Colossus, he still believes in the possibility that their love is strong enough to bring her over to his side, Magneto's side. But of course, I already know that is not the case at all. But now we have to jump over to Cable. And here's the reason why. Because you have Cable getting ready to try to get the jump on Colossus. Because he still believes Colossus is now officially evil. And so the man had traveled all the way over to Muir Island. Except when he does arrive, he's then confronted by Rachel Summers. Now for Rachel, it's really more of she's trying to protect Colossus and the X-Men Excalibur from Cable, but at the same time, she feels like there is some kind of connection. And for Cable, he's kind of like, it's strange. I also feel some kind of connection. This is the first time these two characters are officially meeting one another, the Summer Kids. But getting back over to the conversation between Colossus and Kitty Pryde, you do have the conversation kind of go in the way where you have Colossus at first trying to tell Kitty Pryde that why he had joined Magneto's side and why she should also join Magneto's side, but also kind of saying like, look, Charles Xavier's goals are not going to be achieved at all because the way the earth is, the way the human race is. And so it's better for us to go ahead and leave rather than stay here to try to achieve some kind of goal that's not actually reachable. Now, while you have the two characters talking, Charles wants Jean Grey to go ahead and get a hold of Colossus' mind, but you have Jean say no. And the reason why, because Jean knows that Kitty is not in danger at all, because, well, the love between Colossus and Kitty Pryde. But after, I'd say a few more minutes, you didn't have the X-Men and Excalibur move in and they capture Colossus. And so now their goal is to begin the process of healing his mind. Now, I want to jump back over to the battle between Rachel Summers and also Cable, because you do have Cable trying his best to bring down Rachel Summers. But the thing is, she has the powers of the Phoenix, but also because she is I call a time tripper. And what I mean by that is Rachel is able to kind of move herself to different points in time. Now, her power has not been fully explored by this point in our coverage over the X-Men, but she was able to push herself 10 seconds into the future to dodge Cable's attack. Now, with that being said, she tries to continue to fight against Cable, but the problem is, while trying to do that, her body begins to change, what seems to be the outfit of Captain Britain. While that battle is going on, we jump back over to the X-Men and Excalibur trying to work on the mind of, well, Colossus. And so while trying to do that, you didn't have our heroes realize that they got more trouble coming. And the reason why, because, well, some members of the Acolytes are there for Colossus. He only had 1 hour and that time is up. And they know that it was a trap. And so they came there to free their friend. Now, I want to jump back over to Cable and Rachel Summers' battle once again. And the reason why, because in the middle of the battle, it seems like somebody's trying to take over the body of, well, Rachel Summers. And they call out to Cable, but they call him by a different name, Ascani's son. Now, this is going to be very important as we dive deeper into Cable in our later coverage over the X-Men. But for right now, you have Cable just freaking out because he's wondering, what in the world is going on? How does she know that name? Now, with Cable being caught off guard, it allows Rachel to be able to use her powers to knock him out. But now she's wondering who in the world was that trying to take over her body, but also what is her connection to Cable? Now, for Colossus, his mind's getting healed thanks to Moira Taggart's tech. But here is the thing, guys. You see, even though our heroes were able to repair his mind, Colossus still believes in Magneto. And so at first, it's kind of like a celebration. They were able to heal his mind. He's now able to use his powers correctly. And it does seem like he may be able to think straight. But for Colossus, he says, y'all don't understand. Like, yes, my mind was technically damaged, but at the same time, what I felt was actually how I feel right now still, because I lost my brother. I lost my sister. I lost my parents. My whole entire family died literally in like a month or two, maybe 3. And so for me, it's kind of hard to move on that easily. And so, yes, I try my best to lock away my feelings. And so with his head injury, it seemed like for him, that was the only way to move on through life, to lock away how he truly felt. But now his mind being healed, he's being healed with all those different kinds of feelings of the idea of losing his entire family. And so you had Kitty Pryde say, you're not a failure as a brother. Like, yes, your sister died, but you were still there by her side until her final moments. Now, in reality, he was not, because he was away on a mission when she had died, but he was still there by her side most of the time. While you had Excalibur and also the X-Men trying to heal the mind of Colossus, you had Nightcrawler fighting against the different members of the Acolytes. Now, before their battle was able to continue on, you have Colossus say, everybody stop right now. And the reason why, because I realize that even though I am now able to think straight, I'm still going to join Magneto's side. And here's the reason why, because both sides, Charles and Magneto, their ways of trying to achieve goals for the mutant race is great. And really, their goals are somewhat similar. The problem is that it's how they're trying to execute their goals, their plans to reach those goals. And so for Colossus, he feels like right now, Magneto's plans might be the best way, but Magneto's plan needs some just fine tuning. It's Colossus saying, with Magneto gone, somebody has to carry on his goals. And right now, it's going to be Exodus, who's in charge of the Acolytes. But Colossus is going to be there as a way to kind of guide the acolytes in a better way to help achieve Magneto's goals. But yeah, Colossus leaves once again. Now, I kind of want to end this video on a good note for both Fatal Attractions, but also for Excalibur, because when it comes to Nightcrawler, he is telling us that this is going to be a new team, a new direction for the team, because he realized that right now the mutant race has a lot of problems on their hands, right? And even though we have so many different teams, X-Force, X-Factor, Excalibur, the X-Men, all these different teams, there's still going to be some problems that are going to fall through the cracks. And so it's Nightcrawler saying Excalibur going to handle those problems right there, but also we're going to be a team that's not going to be on the sideline at all. That basically we're going to handle problems before they're able to grow into a bigger problem. And so just like that, we now have a new bold direction for Excalibur with just Nightcrawler, Kitty Pryde, and Rachel Summers, but most likely going to see other characters jump in down the road. But this is where we're going to end Fatal Attractions and also today's video. But guys, this was amazing, guys. But anyways, I'll see you on the next comic book video. Later.